His unconscious interpreted authority means death. That was a little surprising. Being an MD, he was an authority himself. People have interesting issues with authority. Some people have a fear of authority, some people respect authority, some people like to challenge authority. It's almost an automatic unconscious response to an authority. Years ago, I had a physician come to me. He was an MD, and he worked with a fairly large organization. He said he had this uncomfortable fear of authority. And I thought that was a little surprising because being an MD, he was an authority himself. But he said, I still have this issue with authority, even if I have a patient come to me that's in a position of authority. Let's say they're law enforcement or some other position of authority. I feel uncomfortable, and I don't know why. It's just something that's there for me. This was a white Jewish MD, middle-aged. I knew that based on what he was sharing with me, it had its roots somewhere, because there's no rational explanation for that kind of fear for him in this lifetime. So he had come to me to see if I could help him. When we did the soul journeys process to identify where his fear of authority was coming from, he went right into a past life during the plantation era of the Deep South. He happened to be a slave, a black slave on a plantation. When he went into that life, he was probably 14, 15, and he was working in the fields and he would work in the barn. He was given all kinds of chores. People who were there to sort of manage the slaves were very abusive and mocking toward him. They took advantage of him, challenged him, made him do extra work in any opportunity that they had. One day, he found himself in the barn doing some things, and these two slave hands came and they started to mock him and challenge him and taunt him, and he was doing his best to try to accommodate them, not to anger them, but they just were relentless. And they made him do one thing after the next, after the next. Eventually, they got so abusive, they used pitchfork and some other instruments to taunt him and torture him, and finally, they just took his life. That's how he died in that lifetime. We had to clear the trauma of that experience. There were no other past lives where he had that kind of exchange with an authority figure. So in his case, that one lifetime was all we needed to resolve. After that session, he reported back that fear of authority was just no longer there. He could feel a lightness right after the session, which is typical, like something's been lifted that you didn't realize you were carrying all your life. In his case, it was that fear of authority. And that fear was this unconscious realization that I can die as a result of an abuse by an authority figure. That was his unconscious every time he was confronted with authority. The unconscious makes that literal association. It doesn't interpret that he's safe or it's okay. The unconscious just thinks authority means death. That's another area where causation therapy can be effective. People who have issues with authority, that could even be some type of phobic response to authority. But the unconscious doesn't interpret any kind of traumatic experience from a past life and put it in any kind of context. The unconscious just makes a direct association, and that association is what comes up when we're faced with, in his case, an authority figure.